Hello and welcome back to another episode of World of Warcraft Hardcore. My name is Icon and today we're continuing the World of Warcraft Hardcore series on the official servers of Stitches. We're continuing our little playthrough with the Rogue. So after Sunken Temple, as you can see, we are now having two fiery weapons. And let me just tell you, power spike is noticeable. So we're going to try our best to single pull here, just to showcase how well we're doing. We're a little bit out leveling the full borgs, therefore I shouldn't social aggro, but just look at it. I mean, after the cheap shot, we're not again at 90% of the health like we had it in Enduro, but we're down to 50%. Quick killing time, not a lot of damage that we're receiving. And there are just a lot of procs happening, so that's fantastic. Today we're going to take a look at Felwood. The guide wanted us to go here, also just wants us to do a couple of quests. I will say that in between I also did a couple of quests offline for full transparency. Mainly in Ashara, did the pre-quest for a Sunken Temple just in case that's going to come up. I'm not opposed to a Sunken Temple run. There are a couple of good items that I could take from it. And yeah, that's really it. Traded in a lot of quests. Nothing major though, therefore I didn't record. So it's the first major zone that we're picking up. I will stray from the guide mainly because I don't want the continuous traveling. It's just annoying me too much. We will need to grind a few of these full borgs because as part of our rogue preparation quests we were forced to steal/kill a couple of Timbermore, and unfortunately you're getting minus 25 reputation from the Timbermore for every single one that you are killing. So we will need to get back one more hold. There you go. We'll need to collect feathers and quite a bit of material actually. But the good part is this also allows us to do to get salves, which we in turn need in order to get the local buff here in Felwood, the Sunflower Serenade. That way I don't need to always look for cleansed Sunflower, but essentially can do it myself. So that's going to be important because having a continuous extra buff will just increase our DPS. We have a couple of other interesting quest lines in front of us, particularly the Jadanar quest line, which I'd like to do. And what else do we have? We got the Satyrs, so that's going to be interesting. I already did the cleansing quest. That was the first step that I did, and on the way back there was an elite quest where we basically just needed to scout this and kill a couple of elementals. So both of those quests are done, and now we are basically starting the grind here. Got 700 points to grind through. That's quite a bit. 700 reputation. That way we can safely enter and go through the tunnels, which, yeah, I think that should be the minimum achievement that we're getting out of it. I don't think that we're going to become friendly unless I'm unless I'm grinding Firewater, which could be an option as well. So yeah, that's the idea. I will fast forward a bit of this here because currently we're just doing Timbermore Alley. Just got to get a couple more Pathfinders, and then that allows us in turn to also collect feathers. 5 feathers are 50 reputation, so it's a way of just getting rep faster. With our current level, we are level 54. We're in a good spot where these guys are still giving a pretty decent experience, actually. Unlike in other scenarios where that was not the case. You can very much outlevel these guys. And yeah, that's it. You can also see one last comment around equipment and how much weapons are really doing for you as a rogue. You can also just see the longevity of me going through enemies. Remember the whole Searing Gorge and Unguro situation where I needed to kind of come with 60, 70 food, and we went through basically all of that during our time there. That is no longer, because I can go 6, 7, 8 of the enemies without needing to stun lock them or anything, and just chain kill, and we're going to be fine. That was not the case. I very much remember in Unguro in particular, we had to basically take a break almost after every kill, which is crazy. Granted, the enemies there were a little bit higher level, sometimes up to 2 levels above us, but I can promise you that with the current setup, something that's 2 levels above us still dies without us taking 50% damage. That's just not happening. Alright, fast forward a little bit. Alright, so we are done grinding full works. I made up for the reputation hits. You can see just barely into friendly territory with their reputation. Well, unfriendly, sorry. Friendly is a long way off. And we're just going to trade in a few more feathers. Did around, I think, 20-ish% of a level. So this gives a little bit more experience. Guide suggests us to grind into 52 and collect quite a bit of mage weave cloth, actually. We do have that. So we can use it to turn it in. Also turned in all of the other little materials here. And we're now up to 16 salves. I did a bit of cleansing, so I got my own little plant. Which means going forward I can go back here in 2 minutes, basically retake the buff, which I think I'll do. And we need to do satyrs anyways, so just going to kill Fellsworns. A little bit more satyrs need to be killed. So that's the next quest. Let's go. Interesting that the game wants us to farm here until 240 mage weave. That's a lot, man. So the game, the guide very much says grind it, grind it, grind it. It's a good location to grind, don't get me wrong, so I concur with that. But we are already past the level 52.5 that the guide wants us to be. Currently at 52 to 53, and we're running around at 54. I fully expect to do all of Felwood. Maybe not the very last quest, but everything else of Felwood in this one run. Simply because we are already high enough level. 54 is actually a really good level to get to Felwood. I like going into a zone slightly over leveled and then do the entire zone in one go. World of Warcraft Classic isn't designed that way. It typically is designed that you're coming to a zone multiple times, and there are definitely zones where you just can't do them in one go. Strangathorn Vale, for instance, you're starting at 30 and you're ending at like 52, so very unlikely that you, without massive amounts of grinding, could just do that all by yourself. But probably, I mean, if you were to just include grinding, you could be from level 30 to 60 in just Strangathorn and do your thing. So that is possible, but most of the other zones, specifically in the end game, the idea is you're doing a couple of quests at, let's say, take Western Plaguelands. You're going there at level 50, where there's even a quest that gets you there called to the Western Plaguelands, is I think what it's called. Then you're coming there, doing literally the first quest, maybe the first cauldron. Both of them like 50 are 50, 51. And then it goes pretty much up to 52, 53, so it's your decision if you would want to stay there for a longer period of time, or if you decide to go back. And really what the game wants you to do most of the time is just go back and take a route, for instance, to Winterspring would be too much, but Ashara, then Felwood, then Yunguru Crater, and then once you do have like 2 levels under your belt, game wants you to basically redo it again over and over. So it's a lot of traveling involved, and that's okay, but I have a bit of a different approach there. So my approach towards the zone leveling is a little bit different. I think it is more efficient in my perspective to be slightly over leveled. That will give you the opportunity to then do a little bit more than just the beginning zones. Eastern Plaguelands is a fantastic example of that. I would never go to the Eastern Plaguelands at level 50. It's just not worth it. It's a waste of time. I'm kind of looking at the final quests in a zone, and unless the zone stretches for more than, let's say, 7, 10, 15 levels like Strangathorn, then of course what I'm going to say is not going to hold true. But for the vast majority of zones, you're going to have kind of a 5-level-ish window of most of the quests. In the Western Plaguelands, that the highest one would actually be 57, 58, but that is far and few in between. Of course, if you put the elite quests there's also a 60 elite, so it doesn't matter. For the purpose of just normal leveling quests, most of the stuff ends around 57. So realistically, going there at level 50 does you no good. All it does is you get the flight point in the greeting quest, and then that's about it. But if you go there at level 55, for instance, like we could do after we're done with this zone here, you would come in with a few extras. For starters, you could do the beginner's quests, and although they are green, they're not giving less experience. The quests that is, unless you're grossly out-leveling them, and 5 levels is not grossly out-leveling them, so they need to be almost gray in order for you to not get experience. And in the 50s, that's 10 levels. At level 60, it's even 12 levels, so 48 mob is still green. So bottom line, the level 50 quest will still give you a very decent amount of experience, plus with level 55 you'll be able to just breeze through that and you then will be able to not only gain potentially an entire level as you're doing the full zone, you're also going to prevent any extra traveling time. And if you're buffed enough, if your equipment is good enough, if you're playing well enough, you can just stay there until you are done with almost all or all of the quests, like the level 57 quests, the ones that don't involve massive amounts of killing. You can very much do that at level 55, no problem. Even 56 would even make it easier, so if you level in between, that's great. So bottom line, you save the entire traveling time, and you're basically ending up with a full zone completely cleared out. That of course doesn't really work that well in traveling quests. So for instance, there are a couple of quests that you get in Tenaros that then get you to Feralis, and then you need to go back and forth and back and forth. So for those things it doesn't really work that well. However, these quest lines are far and few in between, and you can still like do 2 pit stops per zone instead of 3 or 4. The survival guide here, and I gotta maybe preface my typical statements that I don't agree with how the traveling is done. I think the survival guide aims to make sure that you're never having that you're never punching up, but you're always punching down, just to make it safer. And I get that. I mean, that's part of the survival guide. I should have potentially taken the speed leveling guide. However, that one, at least from what I heard, is not hardcore compatible because you're having a couple of scenarios where the guide, for instance, suggests you die here, go to the spirit healer in order to speed up the process, yada yada yada, and that really wouldn't fare very well on hardcore, would it? So yeah, not sure if I've just picked the wrong guide. I can only yeah, evaluate the guide that I'm playing with, and for me the traveling time and the decision making behind the traveling time is just way too much. I like about the guide that it kind of gives you a preface of buy this, get that. For instance, now we're having trade in of cloth, which is great, but
health warning.
At the same time, the guide sometimes is a bit too easy on the travel. For instance, this particular episode, we started in Ashara. Guide did a lot there. It now wants us to do a couple of quests here, then travel to Winterspring just for a quick quest trade in, Hearth back, travel to Everlook, Hearth back, then go to the cities again, and then go to Theramore yet again, and basically go to I think Feralis at the end. So that's a lot of traveling, man. That's a lot of traveling, and I'm not saying that you can prevent that, but I think under the pre-notion that you cannot have higher level quests, that's the best that you will get. A lot of traveling time. Good. On a more serious note, we need to kill a lot of satyrs here, as shown. And we're almost done with that, so we're going to fast forward. It's really just a kill quest. Later we will need to kill the boss here, I think. So we're going to come back, and there's even a follow-up quest in the north with more satyrs. Thankfully our cooldowns help us to really deal with most of them, and you can see how the Thrash Blade pays off. I was very, very happy that we finally got that. because I knew it would make the leveling experience between the 50s and all the way up to 60 completely different. Alright, fast forward until Jadanar. Alright, forgot that we actually need to kill the boss. Let's do that. Popping all of the cooldowns. Yeah, we need to kill the boss, and then the follow-up quest is in the north. Luckily, cooldowns make you almost invincible. It's such a difference. Alright, fast forward for the rest. Alright, done with the satyrs. It's time for the Jadana forces. One of my favorite quest lines. And maybe when we're coming back I can retake the Songflower, if it hasn't despawned until then. Someone is here though. That's not nice. People are taking away our kills, and with one layer there is really not much I can do about it. Sheesh. Alright. Well, I mean, it's a human priest, so might as well group up with him. Apparently not happening. Okay, well then, we're competing over the mobs here. Cool. And he's even from my guild. I know him. I don't know why he wouldn't want to group, but okay, it is whatever. Maybe he is on a self-playing challenge. That is possible. So we gotta kill quite a few of the forces here. Particularly these cultists and adepts are the most difficult ones to get, so I'll just focus on getting those guys down. The others are going to automatically happen. My kill speed is far exceeding his. So we're good. Priests are good at sustain though, so I give them that. And we will need to regenerate health somehow. But in the time that he killed 2, we indeed have killed a 4. Yep, he now needs to regen, which we also need to do, to be fair, but our regeneration is going to be faster. So yeah, that's the advantage of having up-to-date weapons. You're basically killing in 15-ish seconds, whilst he takes a little bit longer. So he has a head start on this one. Casts a lot of spells, which is atypical for a priest. He's holy spec. That means quicker kill speed, but also just generally more mana dependent. You can see he needs to rest after each of the pulls. And the adepts are really not inside of Jadanar. There are a couple of hounds inside, yes, but most certainly not adepts. These are always guardians, so killing them other than getting kill XP really doesn't change a lot. He can have Jadanar. That's okay. I'll just pick up the scraps outside here because I know that the real bottleneck is going to be the cultists and the adepts, and they are just only spawning outside here. I think maybe in that first cave here, which we're now going to put to the test because everything else is already taken. So let's go down here. And yeah, it seems like there are spawns down here. But as so often they are hidden behind spawns that we don't need. Luckily we got our cooldowns up, and that's just really pleasant, quick kill speed. Adepts teleport. Gotta be a bit careful with that. So I'll just let him almost finish the fireball, because that means he's not teleporting. Yeah, and there are cultists and so on down here, so that's good. The holy fire. He has found our secret location. He found out that, that the other location was no good, and he came to us. Dang it. Good, we're taking a path of the casters here. Lots of adepts. Also finding nice major health potions, that's always good. Well, it sure appears as if we had cleared everything here. Two casters is a nasty setup, but we're dealing enough damage for it to work out. And in close quarters, the teleport is also not as impactful. Off we go. Back to the upper location and fast forward for you guys. I'll just try to kill the other stuff here. Good, time for us to trade in. Let's give it a go. We got the forces of Jadanar. First one complete. Follow up taken up. And the corruption of Jadefire, first one complete, follow up taken up, which is up here. We, however, still aren't done with the Jadanar situation. So we're going to right there fill up the water, and ride back, trade it in, and then I think the actual dungeon is going to happen. In the meantime, given our hunting here with the corrupted shards, we can trade in a little bit more of that. And we're up to 24 salves, which is already respectable. I don't think that this character will see a lot of raiding, but it's never wrong to be able to cleanse. There is a lot that you can do with that. For instance, help others to get kind of the plants cleansed. All right, fast forward until I am going to use the empty canteen. Very good. We got the moon well water, easy peasy. Most of it was still cleared. Guide wants us to immediately rush back, which we are going to do, and we're going to trade it in. Afterwards, I think we will go directly into Jadanar, and that could lead to the Jadanar dungeon plus the escort quest, which I'm looking forward to. So let's go. Okay, we're trading that in. We're picking up the follow-up quest. Oh, it now sends us... Oh, are you kidding me? It now sends us... Oh, yeah, I remember that. Okay, we're actually needing to do that, seeking spiritual aid. Sucks a bit, but I think the quickest way of actually doing it is Hearthstone, Booty Bay, get over. Got the Fellwood flight path, so that's fine, and we can fly back and do all of that. Gives us a chance to repair and sell as well. Fast forward until we can talk to the NPC. Alright, so we're back. We talked to the NPC and we landed in the north. Took a new Songflower because world buffs are important, and this one is such a massive world buff. And we are now going to talk and just do the ritual totem quest up here. That's going to be easy. Once we're done, I would say we're doing further corruption on our way back, and then we're trading everything in down there and do the Jadanar quest line. That's pretty much the idea of it. Got Deathwood to the north here, which is now kill 18 of the higher level Fullborgs, level 55. That now comes into play what I mentioned earlier. If we would be around level 50, 51, entering the zone where the first quests are starting, we would have a problem, because clearly these quests are not made for level 50 characters. However, as a level 54 character, which is, like I said, an excellent time to go to Fellwood, you can just grind on and do that quest. That will be an easy quest for us. Equally, we can do the 54 quest, further corruption. Only thing that we need is a little bit of patience here, because you can quite easily pull multiples of the Fullborgs, and we don't want that. We will need to come back to these guys a bit later. A couple of the winter spring quests require you to go over here and have a pretty nasty 5 pull. Potentially one of the most difficult pulls in many of the quests, but you can split pull them, and with cooldowns we shouldn't really have the biggest problem. So that's really where we are standing. Lots of feathers to be collected here as well for extra rep. And you can see that even level mobs and even slightly higher level mobs are also not that much of a problem. I mentioned earlier how we're not losing 50% of our health to them, and that definitely holds true. It's like 15% instead of 50 for even level mobs. You gotta be careful with the den watchers, because these guys call for help, and that's typically a bad omen. So I'll take this guy last. First we're going to kill the ones that are not calling for help. Yeah, the DPS is so much better with Thrashblade. Night and day difference. Wow, just look at that. Down to 45% after the initial stun. Just got the guy completely riled up before they could even react. Of course, not always. The proccing chance will not always be the same, but hear me out. Each of our weapons does have a 5% chance for an extra attack. On top of that, the Thrashblade has a extra chance for thrashing, which I think is like 2%. It is noticeable. It's a little bit more than the Hodge that you could get in BRD. Both of that stacks. On top of it, there is a proc chance for fiery weapon, I think 1% each weapon. Then on top of that, there is a poison proc chance, and all of that is cumulative. So even though individually the chances might not be that much, you're going to end up with a good proc rate collectively. But the Den Watcher is going to cause trouble. But we got cooldowns running, so that's fine. Now, no need to waste time on these guys. I thought that we would actually kill them a bit faster, and then the cooldowns would have still lasted. Doesn't matter though. We're totally okay. If you don't have cooldowns, then it's just time for zapping. And look at the procs, right? And then on top of that, we do have the riposte proc whenever we're parrying. That's additional damage as well. So even in a straight one-on-one, we're only taking 15% damage. However, if there are multiples and we don't have any cooldowns, then of course that is going to be an issue. Which is also why you can see that the slice and dice, the attack speed improvement, 30% is so significant. Because that de facto means more attacks. And more attacks means more procs, yada yada yada. So that's great. If we could get more attack speed on top of what we already have, then that would be fantastic. We also have an additional 5% chance for crits from our world buff, which is why I wanted to Songflower so bad. Good, but I think it's quite clear we're just going to farm the rest out, so fast forward on that one. Alright, done with the quest, so we're trading that in. Next up, it's going to be the further corruption, and there is a pickup quest right here. Flute of Xaravik, or whatever it's called. He's the boss. Both of that can be traded in down at the Sanctuary Camp. I think I'll actually take the leather cap. That's not bad at all. That's a pretty decent upgrade. We're looking a little bit strange now, but I mean, on the one hand, that's 17 stamina. And then 1% crit chance. It's not as good as agility, because agility does a couple of things for the rogue. It increases attack power and also the crit chance, so therefore it was quote-unquote just a 9% increase. But we're getting, with world buffs, we're already getting quite a bit of stats, and I do have a lot of agility on the rest of my equipment, so not 100% sure if we need more than that. I could get myself Devil Saur at this point if I find it somewhere cheap, and yeah, just do that. I think that would give me more hit, more crit, and it would upgrade 2 slots, so maybe that's the way to go equipment wise. The rest of the equipment is, to be entirely honest, so and so, but the rogue has the unique ability to theoretically get almost better than BWL in most cases equipment just from doing this tier 0.5 quest line. So if I would be serious in playing the rogue in the end game, then likely T 0.5 as the questing part would be the way to go. I'm not 100% sure if I would want to do that. I mean, I could look at the raid sign-ups at the moment, and if we're looking at just the 20-mans, there are already 2 rogues in most of them, 3 rogues in MC. Not sure. I mean, a couple of newcomer rogues are there. I don't want to compete for those spots. However, maybe 1 or 2 raids with that character just to finish or round up the playthrough wouldn't be too bad. And I want to do some level 60 dungeon action because I personally enjoy the 5-man content. The biggest challenge with that is not that I wouldn't enjoy the 5-man content, but it's really the state of the server that we're finding ourselves in. I talked about this in some of the other playthroughs, not the state of the server, I even talked about that plenty in this playthrough, but the end game in particular. And the bottom line is you are having a huge discrepancy or divide between what people can and won't do. So we do have all of the raid geared, highly hyper geared and successful characters, and for them any form of 5-man content, unless it serves a purpose, like either getting raid buffs, so that would be Dire Maul Tribute, or earning money, that would be Strat Live, is pretty much a waste of time. LBRS used to be good when there were enough people that bought blue BOEs, but I'm sitting on my blue BOEs for ages and people are essentially not buying them. they very, very rarely go. So it's down to DMT and Strat Live, and that's it. Sometimes a Strat UD. In some cases, if people feel very adventurous, we're going to see a UBRS. That's on the off raid days, because getting 10 people together that actually want to do it is already a pain in the neck. And outside of that, the only thing that you're seeing from time to time is a BRD run. Holy shit, this guy is dealing a lot of damage. Wow, how?
Health warning.
What was Rend. Cleave. He starts swinging like crazy. Okay, well. Flames increase armor and inflict 50 points of damage. Yeah, well, but that couldn't have been it. Okay, so back to the dungeon piece, right? So that means if you're looking for dungeons, keep in mind this here the entirety of the server. We do have a couple of people looking for a particular quest, and then we have one particular person looking for Scarlet Monastery, and that's it. That's the whole thing since the last 1.5 hours ish. So yeah, you're not seeing a lot of dungeon interactions. The guild that I'm with, Cozy, does have their own dungeon channel, and on the evenings it's picking up a bit more, so that's fine. I suggest you could get away with doing a dungeon then. And there are, don't get me wrong, there are dungeons done, but if you ding 60 quickly and assume that you are now going to essentially grind dungeons, and because you don't have you do have 5 research per hour, so you could theoretically go all day. Let's say it's a Saturday, okay, and I ding 60. On anniversary servers, what that would mean, if I got the entire Saturday off and would be available to play, I could go and potentially do somewhere around 10 to 12 dungeon runs if I really would be pushing for it. An hour on average, maybe a break here and there, but on a like full-fledged gaming session, you could easily do that. You can find groups that rerun it and that go back to back just to get a certain drop. This is crazy that betrayers, once they are low health, are starting to deal a lot of damage. So yeah, 10 to 12 runs is what you could get out of it. Let's say we're having the same exact Saturday here, and I've just hit 60. I can promise you throughout the day, for starters, there aren't even enough people reliably that want to do dungeons. If I use additional LFG tools, the guild Discord, and a couple of other avenues, I could find some more people, but I would likely spending the exact same time, but essentially way more time in searching. I would likely end up with around 5 at max, and that is already pushing it, assuming that you have a good group and that people want to help you. So between 3 and 5 dungeon runs, and that's really the exhausting part. If you want to do tier 0.5, you kind of end up with potentially between 30 and 40 dungeon runs, and whilst on normal servers and the way that it typically works, whilst that is not a lot of time that you would spend, you can do that in a week. Here it would now take potentially half a month, at least, maybe a month, just to get your pre-raid biz stuff, and a lot of it is actually just looking for the right people. And I can understand it from the other side, because if you are raid geared, you're still at a risk in a dungeon, because no matter which role you have, there can always be someone else that messes you up. Even if you're fully next geared, there is a chance that a person is doing a bad pull. You decide to stick it out and not immediately petri out 4 or run for the exit. Healer could be incompetent, tank could be incompetent. You basically name it, there is the possibility for it. And therefore, people that are well geared are just not bringing their toons to dungeons, typically. It's not worth the squeeze. So you need a fresh population of enough people that have just more or less recently hit 60 and that want to do dungeons. And unless you have that, you're not going to see a lot of interaction at 60. So, long-winded way of saying, I explained a bit what the server state is, but long-winded way of saying, I'm not 100% sure if I really want to do kind of the whole tier 0.5 quest and do the extra work that is needed at this point in order to get raid ready. I could be a little bit lazier and basically say, tell the guild leadership, listen, very difficult to find groups. I got a good amount of BOEs, such as Devil's Roar. There are 1 or 2 items that still are not great. Are you cool with me still coming to raid? I'll use a lot of consumes and make up for it. And then basically you're paying to solve the problem. You're throwing money at it to make it go away. And that's equally okay. In that case, I would essentially use more consumes to not be completely useless, and try my best to get BOE items. Oh yeah, it's the flame shield. It is the flame shield. I would try my best to get BOE items and basically raid that way and completely skip the 5-man phase by essentially going into MC and the 20s in order to gear the character somewhat reasonably. That's what I did with my druid. Just for the love of it, couldn't find proper feral gear. Ended up re-speccing into healing and then just went on to the raids. Still healed very well at the beginning because I knew what I was doing and what to watch out for. And in a matter of almost no time, got really, really decent gear. So that's the other alternative that you do have, of course, but it requires a little bit more preparation, I would say. And maybe that's the route that I'm going with the character. Maybe we're just gonna do BOEs and go to raids that way. But before we are doing that, I need to reach 60 and even get a raid spot. So one step at a time. Last pull, then fast forward. The stupid fire shield doesn't even have a casting time. Luckily, with cooldowns, all of this is no problemo. What are we looking for? A couple of hell callers. Yeah, well, we can do that. Even got some fell cloth, which will be going a long way. Because one of the things that I wanted to do is make sure that all of my characters do have proper bags, Mooncross that is. Good, let's finish this quest by killing Zverik. And a couple of Hellcallers, that is. To be fair, the Hellcrawlers are actually starting to be one of my favorites. They don't have that stupid shield. They do a bit of Rain of Fire, which... oh, never mind. They do have that stupid shield. But they have less hit points. The Fiery Shield is really annoying, because you can't do much about that damage. It's an insta-cast. Only thing that I could do is basically stun them. Good last Hellcaller. He can't do the fire shield if his school of magic is on cooldown. So maybe that's the play against the Hellcallers. Just kicking the fireball and hoping that he's not using that shield beforehand. Okay, should be single pull. Need to reapply poisons and then we're going for the boss soon. That shield, man. That was 300 damage from 6 strikes, and I'm striking fast. Okay, now I do understand where all of that damage is coming from. It's crazy that the combat log isn't even showing that, it's just showing the swings, and I was like, wow, how fast is this guy swinging? Impossible. So in a sense, by improving our attack speed, we're not even helping ourselves. Yeah, without the shield they are nothing. Okay, boss time. Xaveric, I want your flute. And I don't mean that in a homosexual way. There we go. Flute. Quest started. And oh, I forgot. I forgot. Should have started that right at the beginning because we need Fellbinds in order to finish that flute quest. Well, I will continue to the grind a little bit. See you in a bit. Alright, time for a trade-in. Cleansed waters. Thank you. Need to use purified waters in Jadanar, and we got a level up. Fantastic. That goes into chance for finishing moves to retain points for even more. What did we get, by the way? We got the Dowsing of the Flames, cool. But we had a couple of other quests. Dowsing the Flames of Protection. Did we just get another one? Oh, okay. We got one of these runner of the mill quests, the Fellbound Ancients. We could theoretically do that afterwards, after we've traded everything in and basically just go back and forth. There's also 1, 2, how many quests do we have here? 2, 3, 4 quests and a flight point that we could trade in. That's a lot of XP we're sitting on that hasn't been really converted yet. With being level 55, we've reached the goal of what we wanted to do here in Felwood, but there is still a little bit more that we can do. Dousing the flames will be interesting. I'll fast forward to that, and then we're having the escort quest, and then there's the final blow to it as well as, and a follow-up of the escort quest. And these are really big quests, so I think 7,000 or 8,000 a pop. Okie dokie. We moved into Jadanar. I was lucky enough to find the key right away. So we're going to do 2 quests at once. The rescue from Jadanar, as well as extinguishing these little braziers here. That's going to be interesting. Also interesting that I pull aggro. She hits the Enforcer like 4 or 5 times. Enforcer just doesn't even flinch. Doesn't change the target whatsoever. Good. The reason why this escort quest is deemed potentially one of the most difficult solo quests is because you need to go all the way in, lots of mobs on that way, and then you need to go all the way out. Again, lots of mobs on the way. She's going to pull plenty of them, as you've seen. And you need to keep up with a very high pace of mob killing. Luckily for us, A, I've done that quest numerous times, and B, our class is actually quite good in chain killing enemies, particularly casters. She will take the brunt of the damage. She's always regenerating that very nicely because NPCs have like very, very, very high levels of spirit, so out of combat regeneration is almost unlimited. And we're just going to get deeper into the cave. If she pulls something, unless she has more than 2 enemies on her, I'm not going to help her immediately. Instead, we're just going to continue and focus on damage dealing, because as you can see, she had taken a little bit of damage. It's already gone. So really no point in throwing yourself in as a bodyguard to catch the bullet when she's really not that vulnerable. Only problem that I'm seeing is due to my slight tardiness. We're having only 5 minutes on the clock for the world buffs. That sucks, but I can't change it now. We're nicely going in, just getting everybody down. Technically, we could have snuck in here, but then the escort quest wouldn't have worked out. Also, by moving in, we're getting more experience. Also, I needed to get the key. It's going to be a bit of a different story when we're doing the follow-up quest, because they are really, really, really deep into the dungeon. So there is a bit of an incentive for me to sneak in. Whether or not I'm going to do that, I'll see what I will do once it's time to make that decision. It's always good to have that extra grinding experience, and this dungeon really lends itself nicely towards grinding because of a lot of casters, a lot of single pulls, high mob density, and so on and so forth. So you can even make an argument that from an XP perspective it's more efficient to just grind your way into it. There's also Mage Weave Cloth, lots of rune cloths that we can get, and of course corrupted soul shards. We're currently again at 30, which will be quite a bit of souls. The final quests also are going to be a bit harder. And by a bit, I mean substantially, because they are 57. One is easy, which is just going to be the recovery of a corpse. Luckily for us, the mobs in that room were always bugged, and instead of pulling like a room of a 5 pull or whatever it is, you're able to basically single pull every single one of them, so that's easy. Not so easy is the other one, which is the final blow, I think it's called. That quest is a bit of an issue, and now we're actually having an issue here. Alright, move in. Take this. Pick up as many as we can. What's her health? Yeah, it was good that I popped cooldowns. She's going to pull 2 again. Killing the smallest one with the biggest threat compared to their hit point pool first. Then the caster, simply because it's more DPS. And then we're letting her tank the Legionnaire because I need this here first. Also gives us chance to recuperate timing on the bandage, as well as a few other things. We're having a triple pull next. Unfortunate, the social aggro. She takes off 1, that's okay. I can handle 2. Putting in enough skills for DPS. Let's just double check what her hit points look like. Good enough. Should rather care about mine. Yeah, she's tanky. There's still a couple more spawns that we need to take care of. But we're so fast that there is no respawn yet. We're pretty fast. Forgot to extinguish one brazier upstairs. So it's going to be interesting. Need to redo that once we're there. You know what? Might as well use Blade Flurry here. Just speeding up the kill process so that we're not rushing into respawns. Done. She's going to join us up here soon-ish. And we could eat some stat food in the meantime. Doesn't heal a lot because I don't have great stat food with me. But it's good to get a little bit extra stamina and spirit. Cool. So now we're benefiting from having cleared all of this instead of just sneaking through it, because we can lead her to the entrance, and I'll fast forward until we're at that point where respawns are happening. Okay, so we ran into just the next moment where enemies are respawning, and look at that, it's at the very entrance. So we skipped all of the problems in the dungeon just by killing fast, being consistent, not making any breaks. Oh yeah, well, we have that under control. Now, the only thing that we need to do is the end fight, which is going to come up very soon. Once we're done with that, I would argue we're pretty much done with the dungeon. Of course, yeah, follow-up quests, but the big one, the escort quest and the initial quest we have successfully done. And that's another 10k experience that you're looking at. So that's why I like this one so much. It rewards you for the time that you put in, because it appreciates that you will need some time to clear the dungeon. Well, it's kind of 20 minutes-ish quest. In my perspective, very well done. Kind of a solo dungeon where you, if you're experienced, where you will have a breeze, but if you're doing it for the first time, it is quite challenging. Good, no world buffs, but we got everything else. And we will need that for the end boss. End boss now is an elite. However, he's not as strong as your typical elite. Nonetheless, not to be underestimated. Here we go. Trey Lightbringer, let's go. Alright, Trey. A little bit of attack speed upgrade. And we've done it. Cool. In order to not just train everything out, I'll just kill a couple of the casters and then train the rest out. Typically don't like just the risky you ride out thing. Saves you maybe 20 seconds. But if you disconnect or anything else goes wrong, you're cooked. Killed him with a bow. Okay, we're going to fast forward until the trade-in, and I think we're almost at the end of this episode anyway. Alright, to finalize things, let's trade in. Those would be quests that I'm doing off-screen. And you can see we're now very solid 20% in the level. And we're having 2 further quests, one for 4 or 5 and the other for 10k. So yeah, the 7.5, 8 on average was correct, but the lion's share is the final blow, which is also the more difficult one. Anyways, like I said, I'm going to do that off screen. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Truly appreciate you. And if you like the content, leave a comment and a like down below, and see you in the next episode. Bye bye.